is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this 4-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds.
That Bud was the best. I got to give it to him, Bud. He's hands down. He's the best. He's the best right now. I don't think nobody need to question him no more. I mean, you kind of got to give him his respect no matter what. You got to give him respect. He just went up 2 weight classes what people said he couldn't do. He's doing everything that people say he can't do.
I've been a world champion, as you know, and I've been a 3-division world champion, but I've only won one of the belts. I don't know what it is to be undisputed. I don't know that feeling. Do you understand? What he did last night is unbelievable.
Floyd Mayweather has come under fire from Stephen A. Smith for disparaging Terence Crawford following his triumph over Canelo. Smith maintained that Crawford made history by becoming undisputed in several weight classes. Pointing out that no fighter had ever accomplished this feat, he emphasized that Crawford merited widespread acclaim rather than condemnation, and that he deserved every piece of his legacy. Smith thinks that Crawford's victory over Canelo was a turning point that improved his standing as one of the greatest fighters of all time, not just another victory. He made it apparent that Crawford's outstanding achievement could not be overshadowed by Mayweather's hostility.
Is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this 4-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds, claiming all the belts. You don't see people doing that very often. Going up against a guy who was perceived as being bigger and stronger, Crawford was strong. Crawford was strong enough to fend him off, strong enough to make him respect his own power. He used his jab, he used his distance.
Jeff Mayweather voiced strong opinions over the shock that Crawford gave Canelo, highlighting the fact that the loss will always be remembered. According to him, Canelo was the division's undeniable monarch, possessing both prestige and power over his rivals. However, he lost in a humiliating defeat to a person who dared to face him at his own castle and go up in weight. For Jeff, this was not a minor flaw. Rather, it was a stain that would always be associated with Canelo's name in boxing history. He emphasized how defining moments define champions in their prime, and for Canelo, that moment was a crushing defeat to Crawford.
But either way, he was in discussion certainly with Chavez. What did this do to his legacy? Because I don't think he caught, the Floyd fight didn't give him, people didn't really look down on him because even though he had 40 fights, he was still, fighting one of the greatest ever and an absolute master in b-ball. He went up weight classes to win. But now he's fighting a smaller guy, a great fighter, but a smaller guy. Does this damage his legacy in any way?
I think it does. Because, the one thing is this, is that, you were ruling, you were the king of that weight class. And the king of that weight class for a good while. And I think that, he had a huge following because, he became the face of boxing.
And even though it's another, future Hall of Famer, still losing a guy come up a couple weight classes, kind of makes you seem not as great as you might have been.
Stephen A. Smith couldn't contain his admiration for Crawford's victory. He emphasized that he was there for this momentous occasion, which made the victory even more intimate for him to observe. Smith claims that no one in boxing history has ever done what Terence Crawford recently did, which was to move up in weight and convincingly defeat a dominant champion like Canelo. He described it as a career-defining accomplishment that distinguishes Crawford from the others and guarantees that this evening will always be remembered in the lengthy history of the sport. For Smith, it was more than simply a bout. It represented a significant change in the boxing definition of greatness.
This was Terence Bud Crawford moving up 2 weight divisions, really 3 in my mind, because we only fought 1 fight at the junior middleweight division. So he's really moving up from 147 pounds, okay? Terence Bud Crawford moving up to the 168-pound limit in an effort to claim the undisputed, super middleweight championship of the world from the grasp of Saul Canelo Alvarez. Now, I was there because let me tell you something right now. There's very, very few sporting events in the world that are better than a super fight in Vegas. I can tell you that right now. There's very, very few events. Props to Nick Khan of the WWE.
Following the fight, Crawford's trainer made it abundantly evident that his boxer had nothing more to prove. According to him, Terence has arrived at a stage where everyone should be treated with respect. However, some detractors continue to deny it. This annoyance highlighted the reality that Crawford continues to struggle with storylines outside of the ring even after taking down one of the greatest boxing names. Terry's trainer made it clear that he isn't even considering fighting again at this time because his performance against Canelo was more than sufficient to solidify his status as a great fighter. This was no longer about chasing names for Crawford. Establishing an indisputable legacy was the goal.
Terence Crawford and his well-renowned trainer, two-time trainer of the year and future Hall of Fame trainer, Brian Bomac McIntyre, recently did an interview in which Bomac stated that a fight is not happening. And this particular fight is a fight that everybody wanted to see Canelo Alvarez take, and Canelo Alvarez refused to take this fight with a 28-year-old two-division world champion, reigning WBC light heavyweight, former two-time WBC super middleweight, the Mexican Ecuadorian superstar boxer, who's one of my favorite fighters and a great person, David, the Mexican Ecuadorian monster Benavidez, who is 30 wins, no loss, no draw, 24 wins by way of knockout, stands at 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach, and fights at 175. But the entire time David Benavidez was fighting at 168, Canelo Alvarez was brought up, and he never accepted the fight. And so, with that said, now people are trying to project this fight on Terence Crawford. And they're saying that Terence Crawford needs to take the fight. So Bomac yesterday did an interview, and Bomac said they're not fighting David Benavidez. And so now people are pushing this notion that Terence Crawford is ducking and Terence Crawford is scared of David Benavidez. And if he don't fight David Benavidez, according to Boxing News 24,
Timothy Bradley made one of the most audacious comparisons between Crawford and Floyd Mayweather. He maintained that Crawford's name ought to be at the top of any discussion about the best of all time. Bradley saw this as more than just Crawford defeating Canelo. The goal was to redefine the fundamental meaning of pound-for-pound number one. He emphasized that although Floyd may have been a master of boxing in his day, Crawford just demonstrated that he is capable of doing it even better by facing and defeating Canelo at his best. According to Bradley, Crawford's victory catapulted him into a whole new world inhabited exclusively by the sport's greatest luminaries.
It might be too late now. It might be too late, because guess what? He done. Ain't nothing else he needs to do. Ain't nothing else he needs to do in boxing. Yep, y'all doubt him now? Y'all doubt him now? I saw some of y'all goofies on y'all channels. You come here and you get the real over here. That's what you get over here. You want the real? You want a real breakdown from a real fighter, a Hall of Famer? That's what you do. You come right here and you gonna get the real and you gonna get the truth. Dang it, that's what you gonna get. Leave them other lames alone and come right on over here. Yeah, and get the truth and nothing but the truth. I've been trying to tell y'all for years about this. Been trying to tell y'all for years about Terence Crawford. Everybody put his resume down.
Roy Jones Jr. provided a calm analysis, pointing out that both boxers were at the height of their abilities this time around, in contrast to Floyd Mayweather's victory against Canelo years prior. He clarified that Floyd was able to outbox Canelo with greater ability and ring IQ since he was up against a younger, less seasoned opponent. Crawford, on the other hand, had to contend with a fully grown and experienced Canelo, the man who had long controlled his division. Crawford dismantled him in spite of his inherent diminutiveness. This feature alone, according to Roy, makes Crawford's victory remarkable since he defeated a Canelo who was much more powerful, intelligent, and shrewd than the one Mayweather faced.
generational great in Canelo Alvarez, really 3 weights above his natural weight class. Does that put him in the conversation with the likes of yourself as the greatest fighter of all time?
Yes, it does, and the reason it does is because he couldn't get the credibility down in his own weight class, so he went up to go challenge himself to fight it, and he found a very formidable, good opponent.
Do you think Canelo Alvarez is on the decline or not?
No, I don't think it's on decline at all.
So you think both fighters are still at their peak, even though they're 36, 37?
Yeah, I think they're both still at their peak. The age for Crawford would seem like he may be beyond it, but he hasn't had the fights, the tough fights we have put him there, and the years of boxing for Canelo would have put him in a position where they're about equal. So I think they both are pretty much in a great place. I think they're both still in their primes, and this is the best time to see them.
What Duke McKenzie saw in the ring astounded him. He believed that Crawford's constant pressure, quickness, and accuracy left Canelo speechless. He called the performance one of the most comprehensive presentations ever seen in contemporary boxing, and said it was amazing and outstanding. McKenzie emphasized that Crawford not only established himself as the indisputable champion, but also demonstrated that he was nearly invincible against even the most formidable foes. He made it apparent that Crawford has set a bar so high that very few, if any, boxers will ever meet it in a tone that was a combination of reverence and amazement.
Know that feeling. Do you understand? What he did last night is unbelievable. He's a 3-time undisputed world champion, and he's beaten the best of the best. Now, for me, there were red flags way before this fight, not way before the fight, in the build up to this fight. Canelo's body language in the run up to this fight, he turned up in Vegas in his stretch limo, in his Armani suit. He's had his kids and his wife in the back of the car, and he's got out and he's strolling around like he owns the gaff. Now, that all that signified to me was a very comfortable man. He was too comfortable. And Terence Crawford just kept it real from the outset. Tracksuit, no nonsense, went there to win, said what he was going to do, told the world what he was going to do long before the fight. I think he asked for this fight many years ago. The discussion he had with Bill Haney, and I think it was him that actually suggested call out Canelo, which he laughed at the beginning, but then it came to fruition, and now it's come to fruition. I mean, what you saw in that fight yesterday, what I watched in that fight yesterday, it was for the purists. It really was, because you really have to try and understand boxing and know what you're looking at. It was the feints. It was the way that he handled the bigger man. It was the little feints, the little side steps, the little flicking with the jabs, hitting him with the head and the body, the little combinations, the little 2s and 3s, and also with Crawford knowing how to close a round, knowing how to win rounds.
One of the strongest defenses of Crawford's excellence came from trainer Robert Garcia, who said that Crawford had outperformed Floyd Mayweather in this specific situation. He cited Crawford's decisive 9-10 victory over Canelo and his unwavering desire, something Mayweather never tried at such a high-risk level. Garcia emphasized that Crawford's victory was exceptional and historic, since Floyd never accepted the challenge of rising to the top and defeating a more experienced fighter in this way. Garcia saw this as more than simply belts and numbers. It was about taking chances and succeeding, which is what makes legends different from icons.
Canelo has already accomplished too much, has already done too much, and he wasn't, I don't see that hunger in him anymore. I don't see that those changes anymore. He fights flat-footed, throws one punch at a time. He's not fast anymore, and that's why I picked Crawford by decision.
Are you surprised how easy it was?
Look, not that I'm surprised, because what I just told you, I think Crawford is very talented, and Crawford is hungry to become a legend. He wanted to become that three-time, 3-division undisputed. He wanted to make history by going up 2 divisions to beat Canelo, one of the greatest of all time. So he was hungry for it. I think Canelo has already done so much, has made so much money, that he's not hungry anymore.
Do you think possibly that Crawford is up there with Pacquiao or Mayweather?
I think in accomplishments, he's three division undisputed, moved up 2 divisions to beat Canelo. So he's probably he's accomplished more than Mayweather for sure. Mayweather never became undisputed, but that doesn't mean he's better than Mayweather. I think in a fight at welterweight, Mayweather in his prime would beat Crawford, and Pacquiao in his prime would probably beat Crawford. But Crawford has accomplished more.
Do you think Crawford should retire after this or fight someone else?
Look, I think a rematch would be fucking good for Crawford to just beat him again and do the same thing if Canelo doesn't have any changes. If he doesn't, he needs to do a lot of changes. Canelo needs to do a lot of changes. I think a rematch would do triple the money that he did in this fight and then retire. But I would be so happy to hear he retired.
When Brian Norman Sr. stated that Terence Crawford's deconstruction of Canelo Alvarez was far more brutal than anything Floyd Mayweather had ever done, he left no space for question. Because they got down to the heart of what had actually happened inside the ring, his remarks struck a chord with both fans and commentators. Canelo, who was long considered the division's king, suffered more than just a beating. A man who had climbed 2 weight classes to confront him methodically dismantled him. Crawford gave a masterful performance that completely changed what excellence in contemporary boxing meant. Canelo Alvarez was the undisputed leader in the super middleweight class for many years. He fought the biggest names, positioned himself as the face of boxing, and solidified his place as one of the most marketable fighters of his time. Because of his supremacy, he seemed almost impenetrable, and opponents frequently failed to match his strong combinations and strategic pressure. However, Crawford destroyed that mystique in a single night. The way everything transpired, in addition to the outcome itself, was what was so startling. On the scorecards, Canelo was neither outlasted nor outscored. Outclassed, he was left looking for solutions that never materialized.